Hi, this is an impact statement from a child brought up as a Jehovah's Witness who was sexually abused by her Jehovah's Witness grandfather, and the shunning and sadness for her family which followed. Claire was to die aged only 17 due to a seizure unrelated to her abuse. And here's her statement written in her own hand. Sometimes I feel sad and angry because it was my grandfather. I used to love him, but now I'm older. I think he is a terrible man to do something like that. I feel sad about losing all my best friends at the church, and I feel angry about losing my family and relatives because of Opa. I see some of my old friends through my dad. Mum and Dad have split up, and I live with Mum, and I don't know if that's Neil or Nell, sorry, and Ben live with Dad, and I see them every weekend. If I hadn't said anything about what Opa did to me, Mum would not feel sad all the time and lost all her friends and family. Claire Milne. Impact statement about her grandfather's abuse. This is from a very thorough article from ABC in Australia. I'll leave a link below for you to look at it at your own pace, or do fast forward through and read it on the screen here, or do spend time with me and we'll have a look at it together. It's hard reading, very accurate though. So the ABC News heading. You've got the picture of Claire that I've just shared, and it states that her abuse did start at the age of 3. The article starts though with Diane Lynn's story. Like many, her mother received a knock at the door, and that was it. The hope of the paradise on earth was offered. Instead, it says Ms. Lynn was subjected to years of sexual abuse at the hands of a member of her mother's new congregation. And when she finally found the courage to speak out, she was greeted with inaction and cover-ups, even as the abuse continued. Ms. Lynn is one of more than 1,800 alleged victims of child sex abuse within the Jehovah's Witness organisation in submissions to the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sex. And yet, despite findings by the Commission that the organisation failed to adequately protect children in its care, it has not joined the National Redress Scheme intended to compensate victims or change the practices that allowed abuse to flourish. And here we go with a story that others have reported around the world, told she was wearing improper clothing. Ms. Lynn said she was abused by a male member of the congregation for years on end, but when she built up the courage to speak up, her complaints fell on deaf ears. And here she is now. Wow, what a lovely setting there. Hope she is finding some peace in nature. Now she's got her intention there. She wants to see the Jehovah's Witnesses organisation change their practices. She says, when I was about 5, we had a circuit overseer come to our house, and I was brave enough to tell him what was happening. Imagine being 5 and having that courage. He said he would take care of it, to listen hard at his next talk, she said. You've got a list there of what the J-Dubs are about. She goes on, that weekend he gave a public talk about David and Goliath and how David was just a little boy. But my oh my, how he killed that giant. And that was it. And that's how he handled it. I just cried my eyes out, and I didn't understand why he didn't do anything, and it didn't stop, and the abuse continued. Hell's bells. Miss Lynn said she was made to feel like she was to blame, and this is what so many get told. I was told I was wearing improper clothing. I was giving the brothers improper thoughts. It was my fault, she said. Now, I don't care what a kid's wearing or if they're wearing nothing. If you're looking at a child, and if you're looking at a 5-year-old and thinking something very rude, then that is just wrong. It's not about what a kid's wearing. If you're thinking that, you get your butt to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, get your bits done, whatever it takes. because that is not normal. And any organization that thinks that that is normal for an adult to look at a child and think something rude, no matter how they're dressed or not dressed, if that organization's thinking that, that's disgusting, and they need to seriously adjust their brains and get themselves an education, get themselves some integrity, get themselves some empathy, some compassion, and, well, they can only think that if they're a pervert themselves, excuse me. They'd say, you can't bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Well, do you know what? Sexually abusing a kid is what brings reproach. The congregation is meant to be seen as clean. We're God's chosen people. We'll then get rid of the damned abuser. Here we go. And I want to do a whole vid on this. My father would repeat teachings and how unless the girl screamed, it was consensual. Some pictures of her through the years. Oh. At 35 years old, Ms. Lynn eventually left the religion. That must take some courage. Leaving many family members and friends behind, as usual. It's hard for people to understand why you would stay in a religion like that, but you think you're doing the right thing. You know nothing else, she said. And I trust everyone reading this who's been an ex-J-Dub gets that. You're taught to believe the world is wicked. You don't trust anyone else. And if it's bad, there's another thing. If it's bad in the congregation, how much worse is it going to be outside? I used to find that if it's bad in the home, then, whoa, it's going to be worse outside the home. And she goes on, and if you leave, you have to leave your family and friends behind and go through it all alone. That's really hard to face. But I just had to. I couldn't raise my kids in something like that. If one child is hurt, that's one child too many. Heading assumed it happened in every other home. And again, if you're living abuse in a home, you're going to think it's normal until you find out otherwise. That is your normal. So this is the story now that gets into Claire Milne, who we looked at the beginning. Aged 67 and living in rural New South Wales, Sylvia Marinas, formerly Milne, shares a strikingly similar past. She was 5 years old when her Jehovah's Witness father began abusing her before he moved up the ranks to become a ministerial servant in her Victorian congregation. I thought it was Jehovah's Spirit that appointed elders and servants. There she is. And she's saying that the organisation did nothing to act on her daughter's child sexual abuse. She's going to explain now. Our family lived such an isolated life that I assume what happened at our home must be the same as at every other, she said. Even if I wanted to tell someone about it, the abuse, I couldn't have told anyone outside the Jehovah's Witness organisation because we were taught not to trust them. And I couldn't tell anyone inside because of my father's position. As she grew older, Miss Marinas thought the trauma of her childhood was over until decades later, when she had her own daughter, Claire. When she was just 3 years old, Claire began revealing details about her grandfather that made Miss Marinas' heart sink, and she grew concerned that her daughter had been abused too. Following their religious beliefs, Miss Marinas and her ex-husband took the matter to their congregation's elders, but without 2 witnesses or a confession, the matter was dropped and no internal investigation was conducted by the elders. Ms. Marinas said she was forbidden from pursuing the matter any further. She knew something terrible had happened to her daughter, and years later her fears were cemented. There she is. There's the pictures. Oh my goodness. Suspicions were right. We were driving and she told me about what her grandfather had done, and I went absolutely hysterical and I got the police involved, Miss Marinas said. I got a policewoman to the door. She spoke to Claire and said, she's definitely been abused. But my ex-husband came home and found the policewoman there and told her to leave. He said that we have our own way of dealing with things and wanted it dealt with within the organisation. Big man. We went to the elders and had a big discussion with them and nothing happened. I was told to keep it to myself. Bunches of big men. Another elder in the congregation who I tried to pursue said, you got to keep it quiet and pretend you still love your father. There's the letter I read out earlier. Disturbed by the lack of action by the elders, Miss Marinus took matters into her own hands, resigning from the congregation and making a formal complaint to the police. Miss Marinus's father pleaded guilty and was convicted of indecently assaulting a child. Wait for this, and received a 12-month prison sentence. Wow, I bet that hurt him a lot. That was a real good redress. Good balance. Well done. Way to go, court system. Very impressed with you. I sent a copy of the charges to the elders, but they still took no action to remove my father. He pleaded guilty and they still blamed me, she said. Look at this, everyone. Look at this. After leaving the religion and taking her father to court, Miss Marinus was shunned by the organisation, her family and her friends, as happens all over the world. Her daughter Claire, later died at 17. Sad and short life, due to an unrelated medical condition and seizure in her home. She says, I lost my family. I was taught as a child that my parent could abuse me with impunity, Ms. Marinus said. And I found out as an adult that if I wanted to get help for the abuse, I would have to lose my connection to my family and my community. But I've become strong and I've got a voice. She must be strong. She must be strong to have kept going. My goodness. Oh, this is horrible. Well, it's hard. It's not horrible, sorry. It's just so hard, isn't it? This sentence. And even though my daughter's not around anymore, she knows I care. It goes on to the Royal Commission findings 2013. They found that these cases were not alone. Records showing more than 1,000 complaints found the organisation had not reported a single case to the police, later concluding it did not adequately respond to allegations of child sexual abuse and it did not adequately protect children from the risk of sexual abuse. An amoeba with a one-celled amoeba could have handled these cases better. Excuse me. The Royal Commission later handed down a number of findings in order to make the organisation safer for children. It recommended the removal of the organisation's two-witness rule, which meant there had to be 2 witnesses to allegations of abuse before internal disciplinary action was taken by others. We have legal service for abuse victims. So if you're in Australia, that may be something you wish to go to get support. The Commission found the approach failed to show an understanding of the nature of child abuse. Again, how many brain cells or how many absolute cells does it take to understand the nature? Really? Really? Sorry. Which does not happen in the presence of independent witnesses. Warren Strange from No More. A free legal service for abuse victims said. Free legal service. Make note of that. Make note of it for other people you may come in contact with as well. Please do. The Commission found quite simply that approach was wrong. There's a surprise. Whilst ever that process is adhered to by the Jehovah's Witnesses, there will not be a child-safe organisation that protects children to the level required. Not even required, to the level you'd want to protect children to. In 2017, a national redress system was established for institutions to opt into. We're now getting to the end of 2019 to assist victims in accessing support services, compensation and recognition of their abuse. However, more than a year on, the Jehovah's Witness organisation has failed to take part and still refuses to move away from its 2-witness rule, of course. Child abuse is a sin, say JWs. And it's a crime, JWs, please note. When contacted, the Jehovah's Witness organisation did not respond to direct questions. They never do. They never, ever do. They failed to respond about its lack of involvement in the redress scheme and current practices, instead providing a link to publications on its website. According to the site, the Jehovah's Witness official stance is that it abhors child abuse. Well, the world, in quotes, the world abhors child abuse. So, hey, you ain't doing that well, are you, kids? Sorry, I meant kids as in them being blooming little kids in themselves. Viewing it as a grave sin. Lots of people think that, so you're not really above them, are you, either? And does not protect perpetrators of abuse from legal consequences. Well, that's a damned lie. I have a gazillion, flipping videos, got agitated, flipping videos demonstrate exactly that, let alone the gazillions of everyone else's videos. The website said it now allowed its members to go to the police, you see, which proves it didn't. And where secular laws around mandatory reporting existed, elders endeavoured to comply. But I don't know about you, if someone comes to me with something like that, I endeavour doesn't mean I do comply, you know? I'm being sarcastic, but what's endeavour? It should be just that they comply. I know other people have gone into exactly those words in detail. However, for the organisation's own internal investigations, the two-witness rule still applies. Elders then conduct a spiritual investigation, and if the individual denies the accusation, the elders consider the testimony of witnesses. And they've got here the quote from Watchtower. The absence of a second witness does not mean that the one making the accusation is untruthful. Even if a charge of wrongdoing cannot be established by two witnesses, the website said. Two elders recognise that a serious sin may have been committed. That's why the police can do stuff. Get the DNA. Have professional trained psychologists to see to it. The elders provide ongoing support to any individuals. Are they trained in it? Are they trained in it? We know they're not. They have no training in it. And of course some of them we know are child abusers themselves. They provide support to any individuals who may have been hurt, and obviously not every elder, some. And the elders remain alert. Wow, about the alleged abuse to protect the congregation from potential danger. So what does that? Do they move the abuser in with them so they can monitor them 24 hours a day? Do they monitor them out in the community? How is the community protected? They don't have a Scooby. They just never think things through. And other people have to get a mallet, a metaphorical mallet, and just keep smacking him on the head to get the most basics in there. That's pathetic. That is pathetic. Meanwhile, Ms. Marinus and Ms. Lynn fear that no changes to the organisation's practices, with no changes, children will continue to be abused, while perpetrators and the organisation will not be held to account. While they are not confident it will ever change, the women hope by speaking up they can help other Jehovah's Witnesses survivors know they are not alone. Lots of stuff happening with this in Belgium and Netherlands as well, for anyone wanting to look further, to know they are not alone. It takes courage to speak out. It takes a long time to leave and have another belief system, but it does happen. It can happen, Ms. Lynn said. Ms. Marinus hopes her words will encourage others to speak up too. I hope I can help somebody out there thinking, this happened to me, I'm scared, she said. Yes, you lose the life you had, but I've got a life now. I'm happy. I'm a survivor. The Jehovah's Witness organisation has until June 2020 to opt in to the redress scheme. Well, I'm not holding my breath. So well done to Tara Cassidy, this reporter, for really going in depth with this. I've been wanting to post lots of updates on child abuse issues, but I got a bit too over. I'd done too much of it. I just actually had to have a break from the subject. It got too much, but there's lots more to be said. Thank you for your time. Always spread, always share. If you can keep note of support systems that are mentioned in these articles, please keep hold of them to pass on to others. If you're affected by this, please speak to someone. Please speak to professionals. Please speak to charities. You can get on the phone anonymously. You can email professionals and charities, trained people anonymously. Get that help. You deserve it. We all need it. We all deserve it. Much love to you all, and goodbye for now.